Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on where you're dialing in from. I think we probably need a new greeting in these times of COVID. Maybe good day, I guess. My name is Saqib Awan, and I am a partner here at Lightspeed Venture Partners. Thank you so much for joining us for this breakout session with Landmark. I think this is our fourth year partnering with the awesome team at Landmark, and great to recognize a few of the names of the attendees. I enjoy seeing each of you every year, and actually this summit is has a bit of a special place in my heart because this was the very first conference I joined on the very first day that I started at Lightspeed. I started and picked up my laptop in Menlo Park and flew out to New York and was at the conference the next day. So, and have been a big fan of it since then. So hopefully we'll get to see each other in person next year. For those of you who don't know Lightspeed and myself and we haven't met, let me just take a few minutes here to introduce who we are, and then we'll dive into our panel here and hopefully make it pretty interactive. So, again, as I said, I'm a partner here at Lightspeed, and Lightspeed Venture Partners has been around for about 2 decades now. And really the company started out with a thesis around enterprise IT and making it quote unquote sexy back in the late 90s and early 2000s. When everybody was focused on the internet, we thought that there's lots of ways and lots of sort of opportunities that would be arising in the enterprise IT landscape. So we started investing in very boring companies, companies like Informatica, Brocade, Nicira, Fusion.io, Nimble Storage, that obviously became household names, at least with the IT executives around the world. And hopefully a lot of you have done business with some of those. And then most recently, startups like AppDynamics, MuleSoft, Nutanix, Zscaler are all Lightspeed companies. So really our DNA is around enterprise IT. We have a thriving practice on the consumer side as well, with investments in companies like Cameo and Goop and Snapchat. We also have a global platform. So we have offices in India, Israel, and China. So we get a pretty good purview of what's happening around the globe from an innovation and emerging trends perspective, especially as it relates to enterprise IT. And we're a pretty large fund. We have over $12 billion now under management. So, probably one of the largest funds in the world, specifically focused on investing in startups at all stages. And I think today we have a bit of a treat for all of you, hopefully, in that we have 3 founders and CEOs from 3 of our companies focusing on different areas, but really all around kind of this idea of like, what is happening with the future of work? Obviously, there's been a tremendous change that's happened in a very short period of time. And most of that burden has fallen on, frankly, all of you to enable remote working at a massive scale in such a short period of time. So that brings along with it a number of different challenges and changes. And we thought it would be a good opportunity for us to talk a little bit about that today. And I'll just plug in, I think a number of you are also members of our CIO Advisory Council. And so we're actually doing these types of sessions with our network on a monthly basis. So if any of you are interested in learning more about what does it mean to be part of CIO Network at Lightspeed and how you can get involved, you can definitely ping me directly here or email me afterwards, and we can chat about it. But let me get into our conversation here. And I'll also just say that, we'd love to make these as interactive as possible. So please ask Q&A throughout. I have a few questions that I've prepared for the panel to kick us off, but I think it becomes more fun as you guys have questions, especially as they relate to problems that you may be facing or things that you're looking at today. So without further ado, let me have each one of our panelists introduce themselves. And if you could just say a little bit about yourself, the company, why you started it, just to give us a kind of a flavor for where we're coming from. So maybe Nitzan, we'll start with you at Epsagon.
Yeah, thanks, Saqib. Happy to be here. So I'm Nitzan. I'm one of the founders and the CEO of Epsagon. My background is in cybersecurity in the Israeli intelligence and engineering management. I moved to New York actually just in the beginning of the year, interesting timing, and I actually not returned, but I'm in Israel at the moment, and I'll be back in New York soon. About Epsagon, so we are a company to provide monitoring and troubleshooting platform for engineering and DevOps teams that are using the cloud and using microservices technologies. And we are a very automated platform that essentially within minutes helps them troubleshoot very complex problems in their distributed environments, reduce business downtime, and improve the developer velocity. Anything else?
Oh, that's great. Anant?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Saqib, for having me on this panel. A little bit about myself. Anant Kale, founder and CEO at AppZen. I started the company about 8 years ago now, just a good reminder. And the thesis behind that was that we had this hypothesis that AI, it was not as prevalent that time. People were not talking about it, would be a disruptor in how we work. And not a lot of people took us seriously then, but obviously we have been working hard at it for many, many years now. And today we are an AI platform for finance. And what we essentially do is we help companies control their spend, reduce their spend, improve their productivity massively, improve their compliance. So everything that finance really cares about. And we do it for thousands of companies today, including a third of Fortune 500, including brands like we all know, Amazon and Salesforce and JP Morgan Chase. So really proud of what we have achieved, truly transforming, thinking ground up how an AI-based finance transformation looks like.
Wonderful. Raghu? You're on mute.
Hello, everyone. I'm Raghu. I'm co-founder and CEO for Yellow Messenger. We are a conversational AI platform for enterprises. The thesis was we started the company 4 years back. It's with a simple thesis. Across the world, almost messaging and voice are becoming the new browsers. More people are engaging on messaging platforms, either be it consumers or on Slack and Microsoft Teams at enterprises. And a significant amount of enterprise engagement with their users is happening or going to happen on these platforms, right from HR support to ID support to employee engagement, customer support. And our platform uses artificial intelligence to help enterprises automate this engagement with employees and consumers on messaging and voice platforms.
Wonderful. So, with that, Raghu, maybe I'll pose the first question to you. Obviously, given what we're seeing, there's in normal circumstances, managing culture and employee engagement is difficult, but with a remote and distributed workforce, it's that much more challenging. So can you talk to us a little bit about, can AI and technology help? And if so, how?
Yeah, absolutely. Even in normal circumstances, the way that a company seeks feedback from employees and act on it in terms of their engagement, culture, etc., is probably through annual surveys, and implementing the feedback from that again takes 6 months. So, there's a lot of time in identifying and fixing a problem. But in a normal circumstances, there is serendipity. The manager meets the person, gauges his mood, and maybe works something to improve his mood at the workplace. But now in remote scenario, what we are seeing is companies, this problem has multiplied tenfold. Not only there is serendipity in the company and HR team managers meeting their employees, but there's a lot of uncertainty every single day in terms of their health, in terms of their jobs, financial. So it is imperative for organizations to kind of make a dipstick and get the voice of the employees on a regular dynamic basis. And you cannot really wait for a few months to act on it. So you need to figure out which are the employees who are impacted by a certain specific item, and the interventions need to happen on a day-to-day basis. Clearly, for a 10,000 plus people organization, they're not staffed to make this happen with humans. And I think that's where we are seeing conversational AI help out companies. I mean, I take an example of Flipkart, which is Walmart subsidiary. They started AI tool which goes and surveys the employees on a regular basis based on their specific milestones, be it an onboarding, be it a completion of a year, completion of a project, after a one-on-one, and based on the feedback provides detailed analytics back at the organization and pinpoints the section of employees or a particular employee where the organization go and intervene and make a difference, either in terms of his engagement levels, either in terms of his performance levels, general security, etc. And this can make a big difference for the organization to multiply their productivity, employee experience, and employee engagement.
Wonderful. So kind of building off on that, Anant, maybe do you want to take a spin at it from like a finance perspective, and how is this trend, but also just digital transformation in general, like how is that impacting employees in finance and the CFO office in particular?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Now, if you kind of look at finance, right, traditionally has been seen in its role of enforcing policies, rules, and so on, and not really have a lot of opportunity in what they do in delighting their customers, which is the employees in a company. And this happens in a number of ways. Every time that you deal with finance, it seems like you're going to get in trouble if you do something right? So I can take examples of that. You are responsible as a manager or as an employee to say approve invoices. It's your job to make sure everything is correct, make sure that you got the services that you had asked for, and then finances processes it, right? So the onus is on the employee to do the right thing, and finance is the oversight. Now what we are seeing is what is happening is in the new world, where processes are developed using AI, technologies like AI, NLP, and a bunch of those, right? You actually see some of these roles and responsibilities that are reliant on employees go away. And what that means to an employee is that they are left with far more time doing the actual job they were supposed to do, rather than doing the work that carries a lot of risk or carries a lot of pressure on them, but is not probably adding a lot of value into what their day-to-day stuff is for. I can give you an example. Some of our customers, I can name one like Amazon. They have their T&E process automated using our technology. And as you know, an expense report, we don't travel a lot nowadays, but when we used to, even today, employers are submitting expense reports for things like work from home expenses. It typically goes through, hey, I submit an expense report, it goes to my manager, the manager approves it and goes to some levels, and then finally lands into finance, right? And the manager is supposed to look at it and make sure everything is correct, and then approve or reject it. Now, over the years, what we have done is technology has allowed us to move from transformation from a paper-based thing to a SaaS-based or a cloud-based application to now even a mobile phone, right? So the job has definitely gone easier. But the job has remained the same. The responsibility on taking the time to look at these things, make sure that they're right, and press that approve button that you are vouching for the accuracy and the compliance of that particular expense has remained the same. And what has also done is added to the cycle time, because now you're waiting for somebody to approve it, levels of people to approve it, and then finance to approve it, and gets paid out in a couple of weeks, right? So when you think of it, how an AI process would work, we define AI with a very narrow segment, which is, can the machine take the decision? Can the machine take the decision, just like in a self-driving car it does, whether to approve it, whether to look for any non-compliance, any fraud, any misuse, right? And can it take that decision accurately and better than any human can? So applying a technology like that, you can actually eliminate the need for managers to come in or employees to come in as a rule. So think about it. Your whole notion of how work is done in an organization where you are a part of a process day in, day out, 100% of the time, you actually come in only from an exception point of view. So 90% of the time, you don't even see what is happening. You're not approving the invoice, you're not approving the expense because the machine is taking care of it and guaranteeing it that it is better, it's taking a better decision and only pulling you in when it finds a problem. So the future of work from a finance point of view, it's not just enabling productivity, compliance in the finance organization, but impacting the rest of the employees as well, because their job is getting simplified. The time that they are getting back to themselves to do the real work is going to improve a lot. And they know that the things that are passing through in their budgets within their teams is going on correctly. So I think as you see that across different domains, it could be an AE trying to get the quote approved, or it could be anything else that's happening, right? From a procurement point of view, you're going to see that change happening in the entire organization.
Yeah, I think I agree with you, and I think if anything, this pandemic probably accelerates a lot of those changes and brings more of the late adopters into maybe the early adopters, or at least the majority of that, right? So Nitzan, let's kind of keeping the same theme here, right? Obviously, you're focused on a little bit of a different piece, but I imagine you're seeing changes in how enterprises are using the cloud and microservices. So can you talk to us a little bit about if you've seen any shifts and what some of the top use cases are?
Yeah, definitely. So first of all, our customers obviously have been impacted, like specific verticals like transportation or retail. So we have seen customers that are struggling, but at the same time, other customers are just shifting more of their focus into things that can actually benefit at these times. So for example, retail goes to e-commerce, mobile applications. So we are seeing kind of both at the same time. So customers, their revenue is significantly affected, while other customers are just going full speed into new projects that are 100% digital in the cloud, so that they will may even benefit from the fact that people are now at home and they might even shop more or use more the mobile apps. And I think the main consensus is that, first of all, people realize that they can't stay with no access from remote. It's just not feasible. Like everyone can see today that working from home is not like optional. This is just the reality, and suddenly companies just have to deal with it. So obviously this brings the cloud into like the main stage, and everyone has to think about it very seriously, because this is like the public cloud is the easiest option to get access from anywhere really. And we are seeing companies, even like, some of our company customers are not just tech companies, like traditional enterprises. Some of our public names are Deloitte, Adobe, Generali, insurance. For example, insurance is an interesting vertical. So some of the companies we're seeing are going very explicitly into the cloud, into microservices, setting up teams that, even have to find the right solution and tools for these types of technologies. So I think overall it's very positive. People are very aware and they just say, yeah, we are doing it, and we are even going to accelerate it now because of these circumstances. So it puts us in an interesting position, because we are working with all types of companies, and those ones, the ones that are going digital even more, we can partner with them like in the best way possible at these times. And obviously our platform is fully SaaS, and we are totally comfortable from doing everything remotely. I mean, we are kind of business almost as usual, and we are doing everything via Zoom, and we don't have to be on site, and our customers are in the cloud as well. So everything is kind of convenient. We can have a shared Slack channel and everyone is happy. So I guess for us, the impact has been both, negative and positive, but like overall, I guess it was like better than the average from what I've seen.
Great, awesome. So before I dig into my other question, we actually have a question here, which I know, Raghu, you've sort of already answered, but for everybody else who's on the call here, we have a question from Pradeep Chaudhary. Are you seeing an issue with bots creating challenge with human intelligence at some point? Raghu, if you want to just sort of start off here, and then maybe Anant, if you want to add on as well.
Absolutely. So to answer this question, I think there are two types of bots, which are general artificial intelligence and vertically trained bots. There's always a risk with general artificially trained bots. For example, GPT-3 is right now popular, right? That's general artificial intelligence, where the responses are from a broad set of training data. But for vertically focused use cases and narrowly trained bots, the risk is much lesser. We see bots amplifying and complementing human intelligence rather than challenging it. I'll just give an example. Humans are really good at going in depth in terms of data, but covering vast amount of data really fast is something that humans are not good at, right? But bots can go through lots and lots of data at a single point of time and surface information that a human can make a decision on, which is applicable in HR, which is applicable in IT, engagement, etc. But broadly, amplifying and complementing human intelligence is our takeaway from the deployments we have seen.
I think I agree with you, Raghu. But there's a nuance to it. What we have seen when you're taking decisions and responses in an organization, a lot has to do with the culture, the politics, or the practices that exist in that organization. And machines obviously cannot do that. But what machines can then do very well is figure out that based on past responses, the response is not as black and white as it needs to be. So to give you an example, the way we see in our finance domain, for example, our AI engine is probably taking a decision on somebody's expenses to say that, yeah, hey, this person has, by reading through that document, which is the hotel folio, figured out that, hey, this person watched an in-room movie and is trying to expense it. It's a very rudimentary example. In most cases, it doesn't even get caught because nobody looks at all this stuff. Nobody looks at finding out what are line items on every document, every receipt, and the image that they've attached. And as Raghu said, machines can do that because they don't take shortcuts. You're reading through massive amounts of data and figuring out, yeah, this is exactly what is what. Now, what is the response going to be? A response is going to be that, hey, I'm going to reject it because you did this. And this is the case of a guy who went out for the first time for his trip versus your sales VP who does this all the time, and in the past you have never stopped him from doing that. So there are nuances to that decision making where human intelligence takes over, and the machines also have to be trained and have to understand that when do we pass off something back to the human to take that decision, right? And even learn from that, saying that, yeah, this kind of decision I cannot be taking in an adverse way, like sending the employee that, hey, please don't spend on money. That money on that, I'm not going to pay you, right? It could be a right response for certain people. It could be the wrong response and create more problems than they're solving for other people, right? And machines have to be done and the systems have to be built in such a way that they're not creating that extra work for you. They're not creating extra frustration for you, but hand it over to the human intelligence where the need be. And even in that kind of a case, you will see that there's a 90% reduction in the kind of decisions, humans or involvement that humans have to get involved in.
Hopefully I think that's good clarification. So, robots aren't going to take over the world all of a sudden, right? We still need humans to provide context and whatnot. But the things that can be automated that are routine is where AI can be super helpful and efficient. And actually, on that point, Anant, if I can just stay with you, and like my next question, you would be like, how do you see sort of the role of the CFO in the organization changing, especially with some of these emerging technologies, and what else is out there that could be that the CFOs and the organization? Because I imagine a lot of our CIOs report into the CFO's office. So what can they take back to their bosses and educate them a little bit on?
Sure. So if you look at the CFO, the role of the CFO, right, maybe spend a minute on understanding what a CFO really does in a company, right? They have kind of 4 key areas, right? They are a catalyst. They are a catalyst for change, execution of change in across the organization, using the CIOs, using the business process reengineering teams They are focused on improving enterprise cost reduction, the pricing, execution, all of that. Then the second role is of an operator, right? They want to run an efficient and effective finance organization. They provide a variety of services, right, from FP&A, treasury, tax, all of that, all of the finance operations that you look at. Then they are the steward too, right? They are protecting the vital assets of the company, and they want to ensure compliance. They want to ensure compliance to financial regulations. They want to close the books correctly. They want to communicate the risk out. And then finally, probably their most important role is to be the strategist. How do we make sure the company is growing, has the right kind of funds, the capital to do that? Now, the reality is that um, they would like to spend most of the time being the strategist so that they are helping growing the company, but they're spending a lot of their time in doing the other three, right? And that's where it takes a lot of human capital, a lot of resources, a lot of systems, a lot of investment. And what we have seen in this, digital transformation that is happening, you're barely touching the low-hanging fruit out there. You have seen the first wave of things getting digitized. When you say digitized, moving from paper-based system to maybe a cloud and scanning things and stuff like that. And then you're seeing the second wave of, hey, how do I put a patchwork? How do I put a Band-Aid on these different things that people are doing? They are productive, like they are entering data from here, copying and pasting here. And then, so you have these low-tech things like RPAs, which allow you to cut down on that low value work and move things around from one place to another. But they are essentially a patchwork, a patch or Band-Aid on doing things, because you have not really transformed your organization. You have not transformed your finance processes to be a new or an AI-driven or a new technology-driven, how a process would look like. And that's where the real opportunity is. The real opportunity for finance transformation is to reimagine what an AI-first finance process looks like. An AI-first finance process looks very different than what has traditionally been associated with finance. It's a process which not only improves compliance, improves the stewardship role that they have. It reimagines operational processes. It is improving the operator function that the CFO is doing. It is providing a better experience to employees, like we talked about earlier, paying employees in 24 hours. How is that from a net promoter score point of view from employees, right? And finally, it is freeing up resources. It is freeing up resources, both capital, freeing up resources, both people, so that they can focus most of their time on the strategic part of what the CFO can really do and add value to the rest of the teams, the business of the company. So this is the massive opportunity to shift from a more of an operational view to more of a strategic view. We can turn that around in the finance organization, and AI is actually the enabler for that.
Great. So, I mean, I think some good news and bad news in that, right? Good news that there's lots of room for transformation. Bad news is that I guess we won't be able to automate the CFOs after all, fully.
Yeah, you don't want to automate the CFOs. You cannot. But what you can do is you can help them automate some of these functions. And my use is if you try to tackle that as trying to build a self-driving car, that's probably far away. But if you can take away 90% of the work, because you understand the domain, the important things is understanding the domain. That's the core which finance people bring. And if you can do that, you can take away a lot of work that is happening today and in fact squash those processes which are out there.
Yeah. And I think what's also kind of interesting in what you're saying is that obviously if we're talking about IT, AI, and all these tools, like really the responsibility here falls on our attendees here today, right? Like all the CIOs and the IT executives, because they can, and that's actually kind of maybe leads me into my next question, and I'll pose that to Nitzan. We're talking about sort of cross-company collaboration and cross-department, work, etc. So I want to ask you a little bit about how does monitoring and troubleshooting, how are those tools, what role do they play in the enterprise? How do you measure ROI on them, especially when they're, kind of where we started, where they're being used cross-functionally?
Yeah, so one of the things that you can see in organizations is the the IT ops traditionally would have the room with like the monitors and the dashboards, and everyone would be, talking about problems and collaborating, and suddenly people are remote. So how do you how do you troubleshoot a business critical problem when everyone is suddenly at home and they are not used to doing it? So, in the past or until today, obviously, you have multiple tools and people will have this expertise of, looking here, looking there, investigating, and then eventually bringing the MTTR, the mean time to response to the minimum, because they have this expertise and they are a team. Suddenly everyone is sitting in a different location. Maybe they are not so used to, communicating efficiently via text messages or whatever. So in my opinion, the the investigation is becoming less and less helpful, and suddenly things take more and more time. The more you have to look in multiple places and communicate between different departments, now it's even more difficult. So, what we believe is the right approach is to automate as much as you can, and be very explicit with what problems you're finding, rather than saying, oh, here is the data, investigate. It's much better to be opinionated and tell the customer, this is what we believe you should take a look at, and this is the problems that we found. So at the end of the day, this model is much more suitable for remote work, because you don't need as much communication between people to solve a problem. You can actually rely on a platform to do most of the work for you. So transforming communication between people and transmitting messages between people to technology that will actually deliver the insights to you is something that is even more important today when people are remote. So we see that people really like automation in general, and especially around incident management and problems in performance. The more automated, the better.
Yeah, yeah, no, I think that makes sense. Awesome. So I have one last question, and I know there's another question that's been posed on the Q&A panel here as well. So I'll encourage everybody, if you have other questions, please post them on there. But my last question, Raghu, I'll start with you, but obviously everybody else chime in. The future, we call it the future of work, but you could almost argue that the future is now, right? Like we're experiencing what it may be like for a long time. But I'm curious to hear from you in particular, like what is your vision for what the employee experience is in this, quote unquote future of work? And obviously Nitzan and Anant, if you have something to add, please do as well.
I think if I have one phrase to kind of broadly describe it, it is maximizing human or employee potential. It's a win-win for the worker. It's a win-win for the company. It's a win-win for the society. When each minute that we are spending during our work is maximizing the impact that it can create. While that being the high level vision about how the future of work is going to be, if I drill that down, what is needed to make that happen? Um, our work, like I think Anant was talking about CFO having 80% of the work in operational things. I'm looking at a future of work where the routine work, which is about getting data, moving files, approving things, checking emails, a lot of work that is not creative and making an impact is automated. And second, a lot of human employee time is also spent in managing their behavior and workflows as per the organization. And I believe the future of work is when the organization adapts to each and everyone's individual style. So your onboarding is as smooth as possible. And I think all of this essentially comes to the theme of amplifying human potential by understanding, by the systems being intuitive and the systems automating significant part of your daily work life and provide a truly personalized experience for each and every employee.
Great. Um, awesome. So I think with that, we'll open it up for Q&A here. And before I do, I've chatted to all of you a quick feedback form. Would love to hear from you guys on what you thought was helpful, what wasn't. It'll take probably a minute or less. So if you guys could fill that out, all the attendees would love to have that. That'd be great. And I think Anand, this question is for you from Zachary Martz. How do you show financial improvement is an important investment? ROI and heavy setup / change management.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. You cannot have any financial transformation, digital transformation initiative without an ROI. And in every investment that you do, and we have gone through it thousands of times with all these companies, it has to meet three criteria. One, it has to have a positive ROI. When I say positive, not a 1x, 2x, but more than in a 3x ROI, that you're getting money back. Not just are you getting money back, but you're getting money back multiple times over. The second is it has to have a quick time to value. Nobody has time, patience to run multi-year projects, even month projects. So it's something that you can get returned back in a quarter or less than a quarter, so that it impacts your bottom line in the financial year itself, right? Impacts not only that, but gives you the experience, changes that you need within the year itself. And the third one is how can it coexist with the rest of the investments that we have? Now look, we when you're talking about finance transformation, and the applications that are there in a company, you're talking about huge applications like SAP, Oracle, and stuff running, and you cannot expect any changes to happen in that. So how do you have tools like, or technologies like which you're investing in, coexist with that, already integrated? So you're not spending a lot of IT dollars in doing that, but you're focusing more on how do I drive my business value that I'm getting out of it as quickly as possible. So absolutely, those have to be hard savings. Those would have to be savings that you can put a finger on, because that's what it really counts, because you're investing in true digital transformation.
Great, wonderful. Are there any other questions for any of the panelists from the IT executives here? As we're waiting for the questions, my last question to you guys would just be if each of you could chime in. What's sort of one thing that the panelists, the attendees here should take away from them? If there's one change or one nugget that they should walk away with and try to implement it in this new, quote unquote, future within their organizations. Well, what's one message that you guys may have? And anybody can go here first.
Happy to go in. I think the one nugget is the future of the work is very different. So don't let your imagination, set by what you think is available in the market. There are lots of things which are not being talked about, and there are unique cases which will be specific to you. So instead of looking for a big solution that can solve thousands of cases or hundreds of cases, look for smaller solutions that can solve specific cases, because that will go deeper. They have domain expertise, they have the technology and the proof points to actually solve that. So that would be my one nugget. If you would, it's not one solution that solves everything, one platform that solves everything. There's space for multiple people and multiple applications in this environment today, which can give you the most value.
So my nugget would be that I think while we are all dealing with the crisis, I think we all should remember that we should not waste this crisis. So don't waste the crisis, and embrace automation is something that I would kind of have everyone take away from this topic.
Yeah, I certainly agree with Anant and Raghu, and I can add that I would assume that things are just going to be constantly changing from now on, and just be more agile, and don't kind of keep doing the same things. This is the time to change. People actually accept change right now. Like whatever new initiative you're going to have, probably it will make sense, because it's new time. So this is the time to think about how to do things differently. in the IT, in the day-to-day, anything. So there are advantages that can be made as well.
Awesome. So we've had a flurry of questions kind of come in. So let me try to go through them, and I know we only have a few minutes left here. Well, first question is from Esmond Kane. How do you mitigate inherent threats from these new tools? E.g. your internal ML and automation tools being weaponized and used by bad guys. Maybe what we'll do is we'll just have one of you comment on that. So I don't know if Raghu or Anant, you guys have an answer that you want to.
Happy to go ahead. I think I'll come back to the earlier topic. There is a whole range of AI tools that companies can use, and a lot of enterprise automation AI tools are essentially embedded with controls within the organization to disable bad behavior or stupid insiders from playing with the systems. Because again, these are narrowly trained models, and there is decentralized, controlled, structured way of training and ingesting models. So we are not seeing significant threats in the way that users can manipulate the systems.
Okay. Another question here, and I know we only have 2 minutes here. So Nitzan, I'll point this to you. And by the way, Raghu, there's a question for you from Eleanor. If you want to just type that live, I think that'd be helpful. And the other questions, I don't think we'll be able to get to Joseph's questions as well. So if any of you guys have answers for those, please go ahead. But Nitzan, for you from Zachary Marks, with incident management and error downtime insight, how do you see this being successful with work from anywhere? We're easing the communication to stakeholders, transparency, action, flow through of issues.
Yeah, I think in these times, again, having the right tools is key, especially tools that can easily integrate with your existing platform for communication. So, of course, you would want to have every incident going to the right place as quickly as possible with to the right person and with the right priority. So that's what technology can bring. Like if you have usually time to look at the monitor and take your time, suddenly everyone is in different location. So just be more focused, just be more concentrated on the important things first. And some tools can do that for you in many cases. Like you can actually prioritize incidents in different ways and only deal with the most important ones. Because at the end of the day, people being remote is just gonna add a little more time to the process. So you want to make sure to cut the time back when you can.
Wonderful. Well, great. I don't want to go over time. I think we'll try to get us back on schedule here for the conference. Thank you so much to Anant, Nitzan, Raghu for joining us and sharing your information and insights and advice. And thank you to all of you for joining as well and listening in. Again, as I said, if we could be of help, please reach out to me directly. I'm going to post the link for the feedback in here again as well. And if we can stay back and answer these questions here on chat, but we're also happy to connect with you guys live and answer anything that we may be able to. But thank you so much for joining us, and hopefully look forward to seeing you in person soon.